Hello, listeners, and welcome to yet another podcast series brought to you by Legis Indica. Today, we're discussing the Supreme Court of India's reportable judgment, Varshatai versus the state of Maharashtra. We're about to take a deep dive into a case that might sound like it's just about a signboard, but it's actually, well, it's a really profound exploration into language, culture, and what it truly means for a language to be official in a diverse nation like India. Specifically, we're going to unpack the Supreme Court's decision regarding the use of Urdu on a municipal council signboard in Maharashtra. It's, a journey into the surprising depths of India's linguistic tapestry.
That's right. And what's truly remarkable about this deep dive, I think, is how it reveals the Supreme Court's incredibly thoughtful approach to linguistic diversity within India. This isn't just about interpreting legal text, you see. It's about understanding the practical application and the very spirit of the law in the daily lives of citizens, especially in local governance. The court looked beyond rigid rules, really, to ensure that the law serves its ultimate purpose, connecting people.
Okay, let's unpack this then and get right into where it all began. What was the core issue here? The thing that eventually made its way to the highest court. It started, well, pretty simply, didn't it? With a brand new signboard on a municipal council building in Patur, that's in the Akola district of Maharashtra. This signboard displayed Municipal Council Patur. But here's the key point. While Marathi, the official language, was right there at the top, it was immediately followed by its Urdu translation.
And that became the flashpoint. The appellant in this case raised an objection almost immediately. Their argument was quite straightforward, really. Since Marathi is the official language of Maharashtra, the municipal council's work should only be in Marathi. That was their view. So they argued that any use of Urdu, even just as an extra language on a public sign, was, well, impermissible. They felt it went against the state's rules.
Right. So this seemingly small detail, just an additional language, kicked off a whole legal saga. Can you walk us through the journey it took? It sounds like it was quite a winding path.
Oh, definitely. It wasn't quick. First, the municipal council itself, they actually rejected the initial objections. They felt what they did was okay.
Okay, so the council stood firm at first.
Yes, but the appellant was persistent. They took it higher, approaching the collector, Akola, and interestingly, the collector allowed the appeal.
Really? So the collector agreed with the appellant?
Yes, agreed with the appellant and set aside the municipal council's resolution. So, round one to the objector, essentially.
Wow, that's a significant turn. So the local authority was told, no Urdu on the sign. What happened next?
Well, the municipal council wasn't having it. They challenged the collector's decision before the next level, the divisional commissioner, Amravati. And wouldn't you know it, the tide turned again. The divisional commissioner set aside the collector's order.
Back the other way, so the Urdu sign was okay again.
Exactly. The original decision was back in play.
What a back and forth. So the appellant, still not happy, I assume.
Not at all. They took their fight to the Bombay High Court next, filing a writ petition. And, their petition actually broadened at this point.
Broadened how?
They weren't just asking about the signboard anymore. They were seeking a much wider ban, prohibiting Urdu in all government work across Maharashtra.
A much bigger ask, then. And the High Court.
The High Court looked at everything and decided not to interfere with the commissioner's decision. They essentially said, no reason to step in here. But then here's a crucial twist. While the case was pending, making its way up, a whole new law came into effect.
A new law, while the case was ongoing.
Yes. The Maharashtra Local Authorities Official Languages Act 2022, let's just call it the 2022 Act. So the Supreme Court, seeing this new legislation, initially asked the appellant to go back to the High Court.
Ah, okay. Go back and argue it under this new 2022 Act.
Precisely. Let the High Court look at it through the lens of the new law first.
So back to the High Court they went. What was the outcome this time under the new act?
Well, even looking at it under the 2022 Act, the High Court reached the same conclusion. They revisited it all and decided that using an additional language like Urdu on a signboard did not violate this new law either.
So consistent from the High Court then?
Very consistent. They found no legal problem with it.
And so after all those appeals, the collector, the commissioner, the High Court twice, the appellant, still determined, goes back to the Supreme Court.
That's right. Which finally led to this landmark judgment we're digging into today. It really shows, how determined someone can be when they believe in a point of principle.
All right, let's get to it then, the Supreme Court's final decision. After this whole long journey, what did the highest court say?
The Supreme Court's division bench, Justice Sudhanshu Dhulia and Justice Krishnan v. Chandran, they gave a very clear judgment. Justice Dhulia wrote the opinion, and the bottom line. They upheld the High Court's decision. The really crucial takeaway, the main point, is that the court found no prohibition at all on using Urdu under that 2022 act.
No prohibition, so it was allowed.
Yes. And it wasn't just a technicality, like kicking a box. It was a very considered ruling, thinking about the bigger picture of language in public life.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Because the court didn't just, look at the black and white rules. They actually talked about the purpose of language itself, didn't they? How did they frame that?
Yes, and this is quite insightful. The court specifically looked at the 2022 Act itself, Section 3, Subsection 2. That part actually allows using English if something can't be properly communicated in Marathi or simply if people don't understand Marathi.
So the law itself acknowledges limitations.
Exactly. And the court highlighted this to make a broader point. Language is primarily a tool for effective communication. That's its main job in public life. It shouldn't be a barrier or, some kind of exclusive marker.
That makes sense. It's about getting the message across.
Precisely. It feels like a gentle reminder from the court that practicality and making sure people understand should come first in governance.
And how did they connect that idea specifically to a municipal council? Why is it especially important at that local level?
Because a municipal council's main job, its whole reason for being, is serving the immediate needs of the people right there in that local community. So if people in Patu are familiar with Urdu, if they use it, then having Urdu on the signboard alongside Marathi, well, it just makes practical sense, doesn't it? It helps the council do its job effectively.
It helps people connect with their local government.
Absolutely. The court said language should be a medium for exchanging ideas, for bringing people closer. It shouldn't be used to divide people or isolate them based on what language they speak.
You can imagine needing info from the council and just not understanding the sign. The court really focused on that practical understanding for ordinary citizens.
Yes, clarity and understanding were key themes.
So, beyond just the practical side of communication, the court also touched on something deeper, right? Language as part of India's, incredible cultural diversity.
They absolutely did. They made a point of stating that India is probably the most multilingual country in the world, a linguistic powerhouse, really. Think about it. Over 122 major languages. 22 of those are in the 8th schedule of the Constitution.
That's the list of officially recognized major languages.
Exactly. Plus hundreds of mother tongues, thousands of dialects. It's staggering. And the court acknowledged that this diversity makes language a very sensitive topic.
Sensitive because language is tied to identity.
Precisely. Each language represents a unique culture, a community, a region. It's deeply personal.
And did they say anything specific about Urdu's place in all this?
Yes, they did. The judgment highlighted Urdu as representing the composite cultural ethos, I love that phrase, or the Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb.
That beautiful blend of cultures.
Yes, that mix that developed over centuries, particularly in northern and central India. It speaks to a shared heritage. They even pointed out that during the independence movement, Hindustani, which was, a blend of Hindi and Urdu, was actually promoted for national integration to bring people together.
So historically, it was seen as a unifier.
In many contexts, yes. And the court seemed to be drawing on that spirit.
And what core constitutional value do they emphasize when dealing with all this linguistic diversity?
Tolerance. That was the key word. The importance of tolerance. They pointed to Article 351 of the Constitution.
What does that article say?
Well, it talks about spreading Hindi, but crucially, by assimilating forms and expressions from Hindustani and the other 8th schedule languages. It's about enrichment, not replacement. The court saw this as embodying the idea of constitutional tolerance, an inclusive approach rather than an exclusive one.
That idea of tolerance and flexibility leads nicely into the next point, doesn't it? The practical necessity. Does the Constitution actually force states to pick only one official language?
No, not at all. And this is a really important clarification. The Constitution, specifically Article 345, gives state legislatures power to adopt Hindi or any other language in use in that state as an official language.
Any other language in use.
Yeah.
So it allows for more than one.
Yes, exactly. There's flexibility built in. The Supreme Court even mentioned a specific Constitution bench case from 2014. Uttar Pradesh Hindi Sahitya Sammelan versus State of Uttar Pradesh.
What did that case clarify?
It basically said that just because a state picks one language as official, it doesn't mean they can't later designate another language as official too, if needed. Using Article 345 again.
So it's not a one-time choice.
Not necessarily, and the court pointed out that, in reality, many states and union territories already do have more than one official language, or they permit using multiple languages for official work.
Why do they do that?
For practical reasons, to communicate effectively with all the different linguistic groups within their borders, it's just, common sense governance for diverse populations.
Now, what's also fascinating here, and you touched on it, is the court really going out of its way to talk about Urdu's Indian roots. There's sometimes this misconception, isn't there, that Urdu isn't originally Indian.
Yes, and the court directly tackled that. They emphasized very clearly that Urdu is an Indo-Aryan language. It belongs to the same family as Marathi and Hindi, and crucially, it developed and flourished right here in India. It wasn't imported. It grew out of the need for communication between different people, different cultures on Indian soil.
So it's fundamentally Indian.
Absolutely. The judgment frames it as a native development, a product of India's own history. It feels like a quiet but firm pushback against narratives that try to label certain languages as foreign.
And how much do they say Urdu is part of just, well, everyday Indian life?
Yeah.
Even if we don't always notice it.
They made a pretty strong statement. They said common people in India use Urdu words daily, maybe without even realizing it, to the point where it would be hard to have a normal conversation without them.
Can you give some examples they mentioned?
Yes, they give some great ones, especially from the legal world, which is quite telling. Words like adalat for court, halafnama for affidavit, vakalatnama power of attorney, peshi for a hearing, dasti meaning hand-delivered.
Right. Those are incredibly common in legal settings.
Exactly. And they pointed out that several states, Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, Telangana, UP, West Bengal, and UTs like Delhi and J&K, have formally adopted Urdu as an official language. It shows its practical importance.
It really underlines how languages mix and borrow from each other naturally.
It does. And the court's final message on this was quite beautiful, I thought. They said it's important to celebrate India's linguistic diversity by, and this is a quote, making friends with Urdu and every other language.
Being friends with languages. I like that.
It's a call for openness, isn't it? Not building walls around languages.
So let's tie this all together. What does this deep dive into Varshatai versus the state of Maharashtra really mean for you, our listener? It's clearly more than just a dispute over a signboard or some legal rule. It feels like a significant statement from the Supreme Court, doesn't it? About valuing communication, respecting identity, and embracing tolerance in a country as diverse as India.
Absolutely. If you connect it to the bigger picture, this judgment really reinforces the idea that laws are meant to serve people. They should help us understand each other, help us interact. It encourages a more flexible, more inclusive, maybe even more empathetic approach to using language, especially when it helps ordinary people connect with their local government bodies.
Like the Municipal Council in this case.
Exactly. It's a call to see our linguistic richness as a strength, not a problem or a source of division. Embracing multiple languages actually makes our public spaces better, more reflective of everyone who uses them.
And it definitely makes you think, doesn't it, about how maybe sometimes we might unintentionally limit communication or miss out on cultural richness by being too rigid about language in our own spheres, our own communities.
It does. It prompts that reflection, seeing language as a bridge, like the court suggested.
So here's a final thought for you to take away. This judgment reminds us that languages are living bridges, not walls.
Exactly. So the question to ponder might be, how can we in our own communities apply this spirit of tolerance and practical communication? How can we celebrate and maybe even incorporate the different languages spoken around us to make our shared spaces, our neighborhoods, our schools, our workplaces genuinely more inclusive?
Something to think about. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more updates on key Indian Supreme Court's decisions.